Now for more, we're joined by Einar Tangen, live from Beijing. He's a current affairs commentator for CCTV. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Rachelle.
Now, Einar, as we heard there, this year marks the 25th anniversary of China-ASEAN relations, and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said those relations were getting mature. What do you think has really helped cement that relationship?
Well, it's all about economics. I mean, the whole situation in ASEAN, I mean, was really a reaction to the meltdown in the global finance system, not only this last time, but in the Asian financial crisis. And at that time, China earned a lot of political capital with ASEAN by lowering its own currency, which was against its own particular interests. But it was part of this idea that they were going to work together. So you've seen the gradual evolution of a body that works on consensus, and you keep seeing that today. But it's about economics primarily. The political issues have crept in over the last few years.
Now, which issues then would you say, or sectors, are making the most significant developments?
Well, you almost have $500 billion in trade that are going forward. Really, it's this connectivity that you hear constantly and over again from the leaders of ASEAN. They're looking for the kind of infrastructure which will allow them to unleash the productivity that they have. Almost all of these nations, excluding Singapore, have a tremendous labor dividend. They're kind of in the same place that China was about 20 years ago. And they're looking to move forward on that. And in order to do that, they do need help. And China's been there. You have the Belt and Road Initiative. You have AAIB. You have a number of issues that they're pushing on the South-South program. So China represents kind of a lifeline on the economic front.
Now, there have been a few bumps in the road. So in terms of the potential challenges in this relationship, what do you think is being done to resolve them?
Well, the main challenges politically are really, it's a geopolitical struggle between the U.S. and China over influence in that particular area, in the Asian Pacific area. Obama made it his, kind of centerpiece, this kind of pivot to Asia. This was seen as threatening to China because he saw it really as more of an encirclement campaign to try to dampen China's rise. So they've been at loggerheads over this. ASEAN feels that it's in between these two great powers that are going forward. But the difference is the U.S. has been pursuing a trade and security option where they say, we'll trade with you and we'll protect you.
Right.
But you also, there are ideological components on that, where China has just taken a more strictly trade and development. They say you handle things within your own country, and we will develop together. So very stark, different approaches. I think China's is working a little bit better, but there are still issues in the South China Sea that need to be resolved.
Now, obviously, China is spending more in terms of its trade relationship with ASEAN nations, and the U.S. is trying to push with the TPP. At the moment, it's stalling in Congress, and President Obama's term is coming to an end. So where then does it leave U.S. investment in ASEAN nations if they don't have TPP?
Well, actually, U.S. investment in ASEAN is actually larger than in China currently right now. But China has $400 billion. The U.S. is just slightly more than half of that. So what we're seeing here is these two entities are trying to look into this $2.5 trillion a year block and see what the opportunities are. Everyone understands the labor dividend and the markets that these represent. In terms of competing economic clusters, TPP is pretty much dead. Everyone kind of acknowledges you have a lame duck Obama who's being followed by two people who are backpedaling as fast as you can imagine on this whole idea. Right. It's just running contrary to the kind of political wisdom in the U.S. to expect that TPP will go through. So ASEAN nations, now remember, ASEAN was the start of our RCEP. It was an initiative that was developed through ASEAN and then spread, and China has been supporting it. So it's quite probable that this will be the new way that ASEAN develops themselves, and it will have a profound political effects because it's something that they developed inside their territory as opposed to having it being brought to them from the outside.
Now, Einar, let's look ahead now. We have ASEAN 2025 forging ahead together. Basically, this blueprint that they're laying out, these three economic pillars. They have the economy, political security, and socio-cultural community. Do they have the tools and the reforms in place to improve these issues?
Well, there's a lot of debate internally within ASEAN right now. I mean, if you look at Indonesia, they're questioning just how much there can be a central ASEAN nation there. They say, looking at Europe right now, which is in disarray, they're not certain that that's exactly the model that they should be following. There are others who say, look, if we don't band together, we will be kind of swallowed up or pushed around by these geopolitical issues. So it's not been completely settled, but what is clear is that this is a very different mechanism than what the West is used to, because it's consensus-driven. Nothing happens until everybody agrees. Now, this works very, very well on the international level because you don't have winners and losers. But it does kind of run contrary to our sense in the West that, you know, there's an up and down vote, majority rules, and you move on, and if you've lost, you just come back and fight the battle another day. So
I'm sorry, unfortunately,
I think people should be paying a lot of attention to this.
Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Einar Tangen, current affairs commentator.